Alrighty, hi, my name's RJ Fiore, and I'm presenting my project for Design 204 with Professor Runstrom. And my project is the study of Sebastian Goodrich, who is pictured right there on the right. So, a little bit of general information. At this point in the project, it's going to be structured. I'm going to have a bit of just general objective information about him. All of this is public. And then I'm going to talk about him in a negative light, and we'll have a little discussion. You guys can discuss your conclusions. And then I'll talk about him in a positive light. You can discuss your conclusions. And then I'll actually introduce you to him, and you guys can discuss with him and make actual conclusions based off that discussion and see how your conclusions changed based off the presentation of him. So a little bit about Sebastian. This is a Florida registry. They have it for everybody in Florida, and we have his age, which is correct, 20. West Palm Beach, Florida, where we both live. That is his address. Please don't go there. So yeah, all of this information I can attest is correct. It even has his first college that he went to. He, just like me, he transferred to SCAD after his first college. Didn't really work out. So some more general info. He has a YouTube channel with about 5 subscribers and 4 videos that is doing pretty good for a student's YouTube. There's like 27 views, 34 views, better than mine. So general info, this is his Instagram bio. You can see his latest story post up there, kind of. I have it a little bit bigger later so you guys can see it. But he describes himself as a filmmaker. He goes to SCAD. He does have his pronouns and has a YouTube link as well. So first portion of the presentation, Sebastian Goodrich, a case study in disruption. So this part does have a little bit of possibly rough language. Not anything I'm going to say, but it's something implied in a song. So if anyone is uncomfortable with that, feel free to mute me until it's over, and I'll let you. It's the first slide, so it'll be over soon. So this is the high school era.
And in other spots, if I had my way, I'd have all of them shot.
So that was during we were in the IB program, which is just the International Baccalaureate. It's just a fancy version of AP that was pretty much a waste of time. But we had a IB camping trip. And on this camping trip, this video was taken. And he is actually singing. He is singing these lyrics. The video is a little bit cut off, so you don't hear that first part, but there's one smoking a joint, another one with spots. If I had my way, I'd have y'all shot. So that is some intense lyrics. And they're from a song called In the Flesh. And that song actually has a lot of language like that. There's some very derogatory language towards like the LGBTQIA community. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm trying to keep up with everything. And also minority communities, a lot of them. He covers a lot of ground in that song on insulting a lot of people. And so I think it's a little strange that someone would choose to sing that song, especially in our junior year of high school. I don't think that's something that really should be expressed and shared like that. So further high school era stuff. This is Sebastian in our math class. He's sitting on a table, and this is the aftermath of that consistent behavior of getting on tables. He actually broke one, and we were no longer allowed in the classroom before the teachers were in there anymore. So this is a consistent pattern of disruption, and it was not just breaking tables. Oftentimes it was making jokes in class or just completely derailing the class. So another type of disruption. This is another classmate of ours, Garrett. And at one point, Sebastian and a few of his friends came in right after lunch and just started putting on a play, an unrehearsed, unchoreographed play, just reciting some incident that happened at lunch. And it derailed the entire class for about 20 minutes. We got nothing done. until about halfway through that class. And this was consistent behavior. There was incidents of lip syncing. There were incidents of just consistent disruptions with, like I said, jokes, and even leaving the class and coming back in to continue a joke that was, again, just continuously. And a lot of people at our high school really found issue with that. Oh, so here's another example. That's our English teacher. And this is one of those situations where him and his friends were making jokes, and she's obviously not having it. This is about near the end of our senior year. So things were people were getting tired of it. So here's some college era information. You can ignore this bottom half, but those are his parents if you're interested. What I could, without buying anything, because you have to buy this stuff if you click on any of those, there is something in his public record, and I'm not 100% sure what it is, but based off knowing him, he has this thing that he does consistently, and it's just like a joke to him, I guess, but it's just getting naked. Like, that's his joke amongst his friends. And so I'm assuming his public record probably has something along the lines of that, which obviously none of us really can support public nudity. That's not really okay. So again, issues with this person. So this is actually an example of one of his one of his not comments. What are they called? You know what I mean. I can't think of the word right now, but I look hotter than you. Get over it. It's a little bit like disrespectful. It's a little bit putting people down and placing himself on this pedestal. I don't know if that's exactly something I would be interested in, or a person I'd be interested in hanging out with. That kind of seems arrogant and rude. Not just, so I don't know if many of us would be really interested in that kind of person being around us. Continuing with social media, there's this girl named Katie that I found. And this is all public. I didn't have to follow her to find this. You can go on any of her posts and just scroll down, and you find this kind of stuff. Him making these extremely sick fantasies about what she's doing to him. And sometimes he gets like other people involved, some of his friends involved. So like, she's just trying to say like, oh, I wish it was summer. And then she had a picture of herself. And he's like, I'm wishing I could see the sunshine again, or my children. And he's just going on, and it's completely disruptive to her social media. Like, her friends will sometimes say stuff or comment. And if this was happening to me, I would probably have just blocked him at this point. I don't know why she continues, but it's consistent. And he tags her, and he pushes it, and he pushes it, and he pushes it. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I feel bad for this poor Katie girl. So that concludes the first portion. I'll just have like two people say their conclusions based off what I've just presented. And what do you guys think about Sebastian Goodrich so far?
I don't really know how to feel. I mean, I guess the way in which you talked about his high school years, he seems like any other kid from high school. I mean, seems relatively normal in a relative sense. Just definitely a jokester, a clown. Some of the story about the lyrics, questionable. Not really sure how to go about that. Seems like just a childish, like, high school thing to do. Yeah, there's no like concrete way I feel like into his morality or anything yet. The comments on the girl's Instagram is interesting, but I can't really put my finger or on the pulse of this guy just yet. But definitely funny. There's a weird sense of humor going on. I'll say that.
Okay. Anybody else?
I've got something.
Okay.
We all are very dumb in high school. I know I certainly was. And so a lot of the stuff, not necessarily the song, but a lot of the other like petty jokes and stuff is sort of the things that I can relate to. I didn't do that sort of thing, but I would certainly laugh at people and like encourage them to do that sort of thing. And You seem like the kind of guy that I would be friends with, but like not intimately. Just to hang around and be like, oh, this guy's hilarious. Let's just hang around with him and like see what he does next. Um, but maybe not invite him to game night on Friday playing Call of Duty.
Okay.
You know, depends on the day. Maybe if you're feeling like you need a fourth man for quads, maybe we'll, if Sebastian happens to be on, we'll have a good laugh. Bring him in. Be good.
Okay. So that concludes the first part. Interesting what you guys said. I thought it would be a little bit more negative, but that's cool. Because again, this is all you can find this, all of this information. So again, like we're building these conclusions off public information and how I'm framing them. So just keep that in mind as we keep going. So here's the second portion of the presentation, Sebastian Goodrich, a case study in the freedom of the human spirit. So I'd like to address some misconceptions. On his post, I look hotter than you, get over it. That's him and his friend Joey. And that was a very fun night for them. They were with their friend Grace and they dressed up for Halloween and they just took like, I don't even know if it was for Halloween, but I know that they dressed up. If you're curious, you can ask Sebastian. But they dressed up and it was really fun and it was really cool. And I think this shows a lot of acceptance of different types of people, like especially coming from Florida, which, you know, we live in a very like blue pocket of Florida, but there are a lot of red pockets. And this kind of stuff is not acceptable in those areas. If you go like 20 miles north or west of us, this kind of, no. But it's really cool that, you know, because we live in an area like that, this like new form of self-expression is okay and accepted. And I think that it's important for people to show that, especially mainstream people. So here's another misconception. This right here is Katie. And obviously we see him here with her as a friend. This is all a joke. This is just a long-winded joke that they've been playing, and she's actually into it. She has several times commented right below them with like laughing emojis and all kinds of stuff like that. Oh, because I clicked on it. So the song. In the Flesh Part 2 is a song by Pink Floyd. And we don't need to watch that again. It is a song by Pink Floyd, and it is at the end of the album The Wall. And at this point, the character Pink is saying, or he has idealized himself in his mind, and he thinks that he has like this world of followers. It's a very fascist type of metaphor that he is kind of playing at. And at this point in this song, he is saying all these terrible things on purpose just to test his audience. And because Sebastian grew up listening to Pink Floyd, he was like, oh, I want to show you guys this song. But our phones didn't have internet in the woods, so he just sang it. He didn't sing all the lyrics, obviously, because he is respectful and didn't do that. But he did like give us the vibe of the song. And then he did explain the context of the song, which I think is really important, instead of just throwing that out there and letting us interpret it however we wanted. So continuing, Sebastian also has really interesting music taste. If you know anything about a band called Peach Pit, he actually went to one of their concerts before COVID in Phoenix with one of his friends, and he met all the band, and it's really cool. And that just to expand on that, he listens to a lot of different types of music like Peach Pit, indie pop, bedroom, in like indie bedroom pop, whatever you want to call it. But then he also listens to some like alternative emo, recently maybe a little bit of hardcore. So yeah, just a wide variety. And this will, I'll show a little bit of this video from his YouTube channel about, it's a After Effects parody of the song King of Carrot Flowers by, oh my gosh, I know I don't like the band. Anyway, I'll remember it during the video, but I'll show a little bit of that just to show some of his After Effects skills, because it is actually really impressive.
When you were young, you were the king of careless flowers, and how you built a tower tumbling through the trees, and holy rattlesnakes that fell all around your feet. And your mom would stick a fork right into daddy's shoulder.
Okay, so I think those are some of like the like interesting parts, and it shows a lot of like the different variety of skills that he had. He just took regular paintings and actually just sat there and did his masks and worked on it, and I thought that was really impressive because I've tried After Effects and I right over my head. And I figured out the song. It's Neutral Milk Hotel. I don't know why I forgot their name. I'm not a big fan, but whatever. He is, and a lot of people like them. So, okay, moving on. So these are two other examples of his art. I'm a little bit limited because he does have an art account, but he doesn't post on it. So really his YouTube videos are about all of the art I could find, but even they are pretty impressive. His video Time and even his Memories of a Better Time are both very reminiscent videos. And I could feel myself while watching them, just kind of looking back and examining my life and, you know, what's happened. And I think that's something interesting to be able to portray as just a freshman in college when he made these, to really move somebody like that. And in the background of that second video, you can see this drawing. This is his bedroom at home, and he has dozens of these, and they're all, I don't know if they're all charcoal. He might have expanded since going to SCAD, but I know most of them were charcoal when I first started seeing them, and they are amazing. They're all kind of like this. Some get a little bit more abstract, some have lyrics, some have all kinds of different stuff, and it's really interesting. I wish I had more, but again, public information is kind of the constraint here. And so lastly, woke Sebastian. So Sebastian is pretty leftist, actually. And he has supported a lot of things. I know him and I were both at, well, him and his friends as well were at Black Lives Matter and like all summer. And, you know, you can see there wearing masks, trying to be as safe as possible. And on the right, he also has a leftist meme. So if anyone enjoys that kind of stuff, then enjoy. So, and I'll let him, if you guys have any specific political questions for him, like his ideologies, I'll leave that up to him, but I did just want to introduce that idea that he is on that side of the political spectrum. So again, friendships. I wanted to show this picture on the left, which is his friends from his first college, University of New Mexico. In the middle is a group of his childhood friends. Literally, they've grown up together, and I hear stories all the time about them. And then on the right is our high school group of friends. So that's just like this huge group of like 12 people that we would all hang out in different like subgroups, but we were all one big thing. So obviously people like him, and a lot of variety of people like him. So what are your conclusions of Sebastian based off specifically this presentation?
Honestly, I'm happy that unlike the other presentation where it just like basically quote unquote muck Sebastian, we kind of get like the whole story on who he is rather than just like small snippets of bad information, you know?
Yeah. Anyone else?
It's interesting how like if you just take bits and pieces of information, you can make him seem like a guy. But then if you like kind of broaden your perspective just a little bit, it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That's something you gotta watch out for whenever.
Yeah, definitely. And before I introduce Sebastian, sorry, that actually was my cue for Sebastian. Don't come yet, Sebastian. Hold off. But before I do that, I just want to talk about a little bit this overall theme of really what I wanted to portray is there is just an incredible amount of information about us on the internet. And I think one of the dangerous things about that is a lot of the times we try and gauge who people are on the internet based off or who they are in real life based off what we see on the internet. And that's not always something that we should be doing, because like I just showed, it can be taken out of context. And if you have a bias against somebody just going in, or somebody who's introducing you to this person has a bias, they're going to show you information like the first presentation, and they may not show you information like the second presentation. But on the flip side, you may have a really bad person in real life who makes themselves look great online. And someone who's friends with them, who's also a bad person, might say like, hey, look, he's such a great person. Look at all this stuff he does. But in real life, he may, be awful. So going forward in this project, I just kind of wanted everybody to take that into consideration when they make judgments about people online, and see if you're taking anything out of context, or if someone's introducing you to somebody online or showing you something online, try and read that full context. And obviously, best case scenario is always to meet the person in real life and actually talk to them and discuss with them. And so that's what I would like to do now. So without further ado, introducing Sebastian Goodrich. I'll stop sharing as well. Okay. Not new share.
Hi, I'm Sebastian.
Yay!
So I don't know. Do you guys have questions? Is that what that is? You just are just gonna ask questions? Okay.
Yeah.
First off, yes, Radiohead. I saw that Pablo Honey thing, and yes.
Yeah, that was like high school stuff. So like, I don't know. Some of those drawings are a little weird. It like here, like I still do it. It's still like stuff. I still like put my stuff on the walls and stuff like that. So that's the stuff that I like continuously do. But yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should follow up with
I'm
a
sure
question then.
everybody's.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
go ahead, Nick. Go
No,
ahead.
You go. Sure. I'm sure everybody's curious. What's with the naked story?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
so
You can't leave it
in
like
high
that.
school, it was just like my joke, like, because I don't care, it was just like a body. So I didn't mind, I didn't really care. So it was like sort of a joke. And then like I had like this thing where, like streaks on Snapchat, it was keep the streaks and streaks. So like I would like take a naked picture like in my bathroom, and just be like, all right, that's my streak for the day, and send it to like everyone that I have a streak with. But like after high school and like after I turned into like an adult, it stopped being kind of funny, like it was just like not funny anymore. It was like, this is like gonna halt me from progressing, so I gotta like stop. So that's that story.
That is quite the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely makes you out
You'll
to
make some
be.
close friends with that. That's
Mhm.
Yeah, he definitely makes you out to be kind of a kidster, like a class
Yeah.
clown type. But at the same time, you seem kind of like, especially with the second presentation, just like an average Joe, so to speak. Not to
Yeah.
be like reductive, but would you say that's accurate? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. I feel, I don't know. It's like, it depends on the group of people I'm with too, but it's like, I don't know, RJ can talk about this too. It's like in groups, it's like, it can go from being like over the top to like a perform, because I think that like, we went to like a high school with performers and stuff, like performers, and like, we're artists ourselves. So I think that like, you can go from putting on a show where you're over the top and like trying to be like a character to like being dead serious, talking about like really serious topics. I mean, it's like, I don't know, we do that all the time. We'll go from talking about, a fart joke to like socialism, in like the span of 2 seconds. It's a very wide range, I think. And I think that's sort of like what I think is fun. That's why I like talking to people, and why I like become friends with people, is I like having conversations like that,
Yeah.
So about IBs, I took IB when I was in high school also. So what was it like in your experience?
It was awful. I mean, I wouldn't ever recommend it to anyone. It wasn't worth it. It just wasn't. It wasn't a fun time. The only good thing that I got out of it was I have lifelong friends. I mean, like RJ I've known since high school, and we have another friend, Joey, who goes to SCAD as well. And you know, that group is like, they're good people. They're all really good people. The only thing that I got out of like that school and like out of that is like my creative drive and like, you know, just like it taught me to be independent and to try and make my art my own, because they weren't going to help us, you know, because I don't know, we kind of went to like a not super great high school.
Not at all.
But yeah.
It also taught us to push out essays like it's no one's business.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
I remember the extended essay all too well. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not fun.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions?
What was the chart on your record?
What was the what?
Was that like a police thing or something? It was on like your record?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it might have just been like, I don't have anything. Like, it's like, I got pulled over once for like a speed, for like my headlight being out or something, but I don't think it's public nudity. That would be a surprise to me if it was.
That's disappointing. That's
I know.
disappointing.
I know.
Headlight public nudity, and you just headlight.
I know.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. If nobody else has any questions, that'll conclude it. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for your time.
Yep. I'll see you later.
I'll see you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Human
Literally see you in 2 hours.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, RJ. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with this discussion just a little bit. I didn't interject because I wanted to hear from students. So I wanted, to hear if you guys had questions. One of the things that came up to me or came up for me watching this was how seemingly, innocuous things or things that don't really have substance to them could make you appear very badly in the future. Like even this idea of like the public nudity, for instance, which I think is very funny. I just don't have, I mean, I'm not advocating but I don't think that it's like a huge, I understand why people do this, and this is not a new thing. This is something that people have done forever, right? And yet, that could really, if you were trying to like run for political office or, I always think about my professional career, and those kinds of things later, that people could really, and, when I, just to kind of put this in context, when I was younger, the internet didn't exist. I mean, or, social media didn't exist, none of that, so just to kind of have that thought that, now if you go to work for a corporation, they'll scour your internet, your social media posts, they'll look at what you're posting and who you are behind the scenes because it's public information and they want to know, so that kind of stuff was what I was thinking about. And I too didn't, agree that, things can out of context, seem to be like someone is like saying something that they're not saying, or I thought that was a really great context that you did with that, RJ. Does anyone else have any ideas or thoughts about that?
I was just gonna say that while like the first part of the presentation, I thought he was just like that funny weird kid in high school. There is like real intention in everything he does. I mean, again, like we all said, I don't advocate for public nudity, but that streaks thing is really funny and actually really clever. I mean, the idea. So conceptually, there's always something behind that. I think that was really cool. But also, I just want to say that was amazing. Like, I couldn't really formulate in my own head what it is like it would look like in the end when you were telling us about it. But
Mhm.
now seeing it, I'm like, damn, okay, this was so cool.
Mhm. Right. And I do think there are people, that you could make. I mean, and obviously you don't want to slander your friend, but you could make this even more extreme, where someone really does. I mean, I think every single human being has said things they regret that are, whether they've been caught on social media or not doing it is a very different thing. But and that's another thing that I'm thinking, who is not guilty of, whereas, normally I am a person who advocates for being very conscious of your speech and, those types of things and putting what you're putting out into the world. But then, kind of seeing this presentation makes me sympathize for kind of this other, and I think it does go back to intention, like Nina was talking about. If someone intention is to be like a violent, brutal person or to be, then that's very different to me than if, they're saying heinous rap lyrics and they're just having, expressing anger and having fun or doing some, there's a very big difference between, not to use rap music only, but, to any kind of, stoner rock or metal or, any kind of genre of music that has this angry, it's art. And it's, I think to try to use that as something that to hold against someone, I think would be, pretty ridiculous, so yeah, but I see, yeah, RJ, go ahead.
So I actually kind of had something about that for my original person. Sebastian was the second person I chose because looking at him, like initially, he doesn't have like a threatening appearance or anything like that. So my original idea was my friend Gray. Some of you might know him as Tyler Westbrook, but he goes by Gray Westbrook now. He has a beard. He always wears like hardcore shirts and like all this crazy like stuff and always like really dark colors. And people are terrified of him. When I found out he was my roommate, I looked at his Instagram and was terrified by him. I thought he was the most threatening human being ever. And then I walk in and he's shorter than me and he's my best friend. So like I wanted to show that because his Instagram, he's deep in like the hardcore community, the metal community, screamo, all that stuff. And he actually has bands. And a lot of that stuff is looked down upon. And like there's a whole culture there, and a lot of that stuff is seen in a negative light. So that's one limitation about Sebastian. He's not really into anything that's like can be portrayed like super bad.
Right. He's too good.
Yeah. So I think like if I had done it with
right.
it would have been more interesting, but
good. Let's hear from someone else. Anyone else have any ideas about how to push this further or just in general? Remy, please.
It was really funny, like the social media stuff, because I knew instantly. I was like, oh, it's a close friend. Also, that photo is going to surprise someone because me and my friends do the exact same stuff. We get like 30 comments deep in some comment section, just talking about the randomest stuff for no reason, just because we can. But it was really interesting because when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be a close friend. Then I really thought about it. I was like, oh yeah, if that someone doesn't do that with their friends, it's like, why would you be talking about your wife and kids to some random like lady? That's just really weird. But I think you could push it like further. I do like the idea of using your friend Gray as more of an intimidating thing to really hammer home the idea of like what you say out of context can just be like, go miles. It could just go forever.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of an interesting thing. It almost makes me want to look back on the stuff I've said. I'm like, they were jokes to me and my friends, but it is public. So
right.
Scary about that. But yeah, I think kind of using that idea of like putting a bit of self-reflection in there as well. Because now I'm curious on what's on my record. Because I've been pulled over by the cops before. I've had like tickets and stuff. So I don't know. I'm like, what's on that stuff, man? It's creeping me out. But I think if you do that, it'd be really cool for like a psychological standpoint as well, just to see how they react.
Yeah, I'm wondering too if maybe he could have put a survey, like a poll, like after the first one, and could have just asked us like 3 or 5 questions about him, and then did another poll afterward, which he did do, like ask questions and give feedback, but like an actual poll that ask specific, because then you could really compare some data, some numbers with it. Great. Dyra, did you have any ideas?
Well, I was just imagining in my head, like different things, and then when he came on the Zoom, it was a bit different of what I was expecting.
Just him as a person, right? His personality, and so you started creating a character of this person, right? I thought I did that as well.
Yeah, just like when you look at a painting, you just start imagining all this stories and stuff, but then you see a reality, and I was kind of shocked.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. I think we're learning a lot about that from some of this kind of experimentation and presentation, like how you could create a person and use identity in some way, just based off of kind of growing this project into a different direction.
Definitely.
Talicia, what do you think?
I like the survey and the self-reflection idea, but putting it together after he did his friend, and then he have himself self-reflect, and then we all together self-reflect on the survey. Because when I was watching the whole thing, I was actually thinking about celebrities. How celebrities have this same problem with the paparazzi taking something so small and then it blows up in a really bad thing, and knowing that you don't know the whole story. So why do you assume this person does this thing? And it's all over the news. I mean, that could also be involved as well. Maybe maybe RJ, you have a favorite celebrity that's been bashed with so many negative feedback, but the whole story. Maybe that could be part of your project as well.
Yeah. And I like the idea too of like the psychological kind of thriller kind of part of this, where, there's kind of this total flip side, I love those two sides of the story thing. And we, see that quite a bit in media as well, where, like in the murder mysteries and things like that, where they're like, they'll do one side and like a Dateline special or something, and then they do another side, but then there's this side of the story, and then they're like, well, this person wasn't even there at that time, and this person did this, this and this, so there's like a case and a counter case, right, or something. And I kind of like that, like creating this feeling like this person, and then turning it totally upside down and creating this feeling like, oh, I was totally wrong, this is completely flawed thinking on my part. And I do think that's kind of what absolutely he was trying to accomplish. And I do think depending on the character, it gives you more or less opportunity to do that. So I thought you did a great job presenting what you had, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Talicia. I appreciate that too, because I think it matters. Anyone else have any thoughts or ideas about it?
I think a good example of what you were just talking about is if anybody's seen the movie Gone Girl or read the book.
Oh yeah.
Where they've painted this whole thing like her husband murdered her, but she just ran away.
Yeah. And then she like sets him up, isn't that right? At the end, where she's totally manipulating him. She's acting like a victim the whole time, and then she runs away, and and then everyone thinks that he like killed her, but she's really evil. Actually, right. So it kind of draws on like the conclusions, right? Yeah, absolutely. I like that too. Okay, good. Thank you, Elijah. Clarissa,
So like I really liked it. I thought it was really interesting. When I was watching it, I was like, I think I know a few people who are like this, especially like when you showed the social media, because I have friends who would like do that. But it makes me wonder, it's like, what if you presented this to people who didn't grow up with social media? Where it would be like, what would they like immediately think? Would they think that they're like a creeper or something like that? So I think it would be interesting to see like their perspective when they would see the posts.
Yeah, that makes me think too, when I was talking about the survey or like a poll, I think a lot of people would not even, let's say they didn't like him and they thought, oh, he's not a good person at first. And then they heard the other side and they thought, well, maybe I'm wrong, and I don't think if he shows up to answer questions, they're still going to like want to tell someone something negative about them. They're going to just kind of not say anything and not maybe ask a question or maybe not ask a question. I don't know how confrontational a person would be, because what if they're a bad person? It's not my business really still, you know what I mean? So it's kind of over the line of what is my side of the street or what's my business anyway. So I think you have to like somehow create a way in where people, they're supposed to, even though you're trying to set up a situation where they're supposed to judge him, it's almost like you want to, how could you increase that sense of okayness with judging someone? So that it doesn't feel like a negative thing, right? It's almost like he's too human to do that. If he's right here, so I'm kind of curious about that too, like if there's ways to do that too. I don't know, just something to think about. There's a lot of things to think about here. So I love that there's a lot of conversation about presenting a real human and how you do this and kind of what you're trying to accomplish. I'm wondering too if when you're presenting him, so I'm trying to think about that a little bit, and there's just a lot of different pieces here. So that, I guess that's the part that I'd have to think about it a little bit more. Any other suggestions or thoughts? Right, I think we're there. Well, thank you, RJ, so much for your presentation. And